everyone, I'm Roa. Recently there's been a lot of discussion happening in the Splatoon community about sexism and misogyny and some of the negative experiences that women, femme people, non-binary people, genderqueer people generally have been having. And I thought it was important that we try to hear out and listen to the voices of some of the people who've been coming out on social media and talking about their experiences. So I'm joined today with Mellana, who wrote a great Blue Sky thread about her own experiences within the Splatoon community as a notable community member. Mellana, could you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do in the Splatoon community?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me, Roa. My name is Mellana. I've been a pretty big streamer in the Splatoon community for a long time. It wasn't until maybe the last couple of years that I kind of stepped back from streaming Splatoon. Many of you probably have also seen me commentate around many LANs, but also most notably the North American League for Nintendo. I've done a lot of work with commentary for Nintendo, so you probably have seen me up on that stage at some point. But yeah, I've been around the Splatoon community now for probably around 8 years plus. It's been mostly a good time, but as you mentioned, Roa, we are in the middle of a discussion where I think maybe sometimes it's not so good.
Yeah. I think it is important in all of this to realize that as gaming communities go, Splatoon is probably the most welcoming and diverse and accepting communities, but that doesn't mean that we can't want and strive to be better. I think if anything, this conversation and the fact that it's happening and that so many people are coming forward and wanting it to be improved shows that there's a lot of people who do care, and that there's a lot of people who have the want and the will to try and have some impact and see if we can get some productive things to happen out of this discussion.
Yeah, I think it really is. All communities are going to have their bad eggs, and like you mentioned, it's not everybody. I've met a lot of really, really great people from my time in Splatoon. And in fact, most of the people I have met have been excellent. I've met some of my closest friends from playing Splatoon. While neither them nor me play Splatoon too much anymore, I would have never met them without the game and the community. So it has been impactful in a lot of positive ways, but it is also important, like you mentioned, to kind of want better. Like if we care about the community, we want to be better, and that takes a little bit of introspection, and it takes a little bit of listening to people who maybe haven't been treated the best.
And before we kind of speak on this generally, I encourage people to, if your first reaction is to be defensive and to say, oh, but I would never do that, or oh, but that's not me, that's not my friends, I encourage you to think, okay, where's that defensiveness coming from? And also to understand that even if you're not intending to, you can contribute to the spaces you inhabit in a way that is unproductive and makes certain groups of people feel less seen and less safe.
Yeah, totally. We all have room to grow, and that includes myself. So, let's all just try to come at this with an open mind, for sure.
Absolutely. So, Mellana, in your Blue Sky thread that you posted, you mentioned kind of a lot of events happening that ultimately led you to feel less welcome and less comfortable being in the Splatoon community, felt pushed out even. Could you tell us a little bit about how those events transpired and how they made you feel?
Yeah, so this is a conversation that has come up in the Splatoon community from time to time. And since the last time it came up, which was, I can't even remember how many years ago it was for myself, I was definitely a lot more involved in the community at that point. But I recall that I mentioned, as I mentioned in my Blue Sky post, that there was a particular figure in the community who, I don't know how to say this properly. There was a particular figure in the community who wanted to bring attention to this issue. And so he opted to start a podcast regarding this whole discussion regarding sexism and misogyny in the Splatoon community. And at the time, he was running a podcast. Now, this podcast was made up of men, and one particular member of that podcast was somebody I knew to have been extremely nasty to women and to specifically one of my very close friends at the time, still a close friend of mine, but she is also no longer in the community for literally things like this. And she was also quite notable for doing commentary as well, in fact. But during this podcast, it was a podcast that was like, they were talking about, whatever was going on in the community. They had invited a woman to be on the podcast. And after they had finished discussing whatever they were discussing, they literally go, okay, to the woman in the podcast, now talk about your experience. There was no preparation. There was no leading questions. There was no empathy in the way that they brought it. They just kind of brought her into the podcast and was like, okay, now speak, as if like it just didn't show any care to it, right? And I'm like, okay, first of all, that's completely weird. Yeah, so there was that. And then like I mentioned, one of the men on the podcast was particularly not so nice to women. He was actually, even before, way before then, many years before this podcast, had been a friend of mine. And you can cut this out if this is not appropriate, by the way.
Sure.
He messaged me asking me to VC. And I was like, oh, okay, sure. He's like, yeah, I got something on my mind. And he was kind of taking advantage of me being a nice person and me also being a woman. And he was talking about how his wife and him were in an open marriage, but she was constantly going out and having personal relations with other men, and he couldn't find any women to have personal relationships with. So he was just being all sad and trying to make me feel bad. And then he asked me if I was in an open marriage and if I was willing to have a personal relationship with him. And I'm like, that is incredibly invasive. And no, I'm not. That's a crazy thing to ask someone. So I think in a lot of ways, that man was particularly manipulative. He told in addition, he told that woman that I mentioned, who also is no longer in the community, that she would be nothing without him. That her whole career in Splatoon, her whole impact in Splatoon was because of him, that he was the one that made her, that he was the one who, that every success that she's ever had was because of him, basically. So obviously, kind of not a good person. So this man was on the podcast. He was not the head of the podcast, but the man who was the head of the podcast was also a close friend of this woman friend of mine. And yeah, so the head of the podcast, I brought it up to him. I was just like, hey, I can't vibe with the fact that you brought this man into a podcast about supporting women and rooting out misogyny in the community when he has done X, Y, and Z to women in the community. I think that just seems a little bit, what's the word I'm looking for? fake, I guess.
Yeah,
Fake is
yeah.
the best word I can think of. Yeah. I'm like, that just, disingenuous. That's the word I'm looking for.
Disingenuous,
It just
yes.
is extremely, extremely disingenuous. And he's like, oh no, I didn't know any of this stuff happened, but he definitely did, because I know for sure he did, because he was there when everything went down. So I gave him the benefit of the doubt. I was just like, well, okay, in case you forgot, this is what happened with this guy. And the guy's like, okay. So then my friend, unbeknownst to either of us, also reached out to him and was just like, hey, you like know what this guy did to me, right? And he got so mad at her, not to me, at her, because she, as I guess a double-edged sword, is nicer than I am. He started screaming at her and saying things like, you sent Mellana on me, like, how dare you do something like that to me, like, what is wrong with you, like, you know, really like going in on her. And I find out about this. Now, we both confronted him unbeknownst to the other, because like my friend was on vacation. I didn't want her to think about it, but she ended up finding out about it anyway. So I've only ever subtweeted one time in my life. So I subtweeted him and I was just like, fellas, is it worse to be a misogynist or to pretend not to be a misogynist and actually be a misogynist behind closed doors? Yeah, and then he immediately, like frame one after I posted that, DM'd me and he's like, I think you have the wrong idea. And I'm like, actually, I'm pretty sure I don't have the wrong idea, because you are using your notability in the community to try to get more followers and more fame by pretending that you care about misogyny, when in fact you are a perpetuator of misogyny. So all of this is happening behind closed doors, right? And it got to the point where we were arguing so much about this, and I mentioned that I'm like, how dare you like attack my friend with your words, right? Like, how dare you do that? And he goes, actually, the fact that you used the word attack was racist. And I don't feel safe in this conversation anymore, so I'm leaving. I was like, excuse me? So that man doubled down so hard for this man who probably wouldn't have stood up for him in any regard, because he didn't, I guess, like being spoken back to by a woman. But those kinds of things happened a lot when I was when I had a lot of visibility in the community, because I felt like a lot of men decided that it was okay to talk back at me, because if you know anything about me, I'm like a positive person. Like, I really try to be nice to people. And one of the things I really like to do is I really like to uplift people, right? Especially marginalized people. So I have a little bit, it's funny, I don't really have very much shame. So I'll ask things and I'll speak up for things, and I don't really feel embarrassed about it. And I know that's not the case for a lot of people who are marginalized. So I like to use that to benefit people who maybe are not me. So a lot of these things happen behind closed doors. And what made me feel kind of pushed out from the community is, like, when these things happened, I had a personal responsibility of, do I air this out, or do I really think about the benefit of the community, like, and keep it to myself? And a lot of the times it was keep it to myself, because I didn't want to like make things rough in the community, I guess. I didn't want to, I didn't want to rock the boat, because like you mentioned, Roa, it was, the community is good, right? The community has really good people. And I didn't need to bring in things that I thought was personal drama into things that maybe were a little bit in the public eye. So that particular situation, I kept to myself entirely. I think neither the man who is a misogynist or the man who protected the misogynist are in the community anymore. But like, these are the kinds of things, like I mentioned, that happen to me from time to time. And like, I know in my Blue Sky post, I mentioned 2 other instances of things that happened. I will say at the time, both of those things I felt very misogynistic, because that second instance of that second experience that I had was from a case that I was a part of where there was a conflict of interest, and this notable member of the community thought they were entitled to my time to voice chat me and then tell me that I never cared about the community, which I was incredibly offended about, because during that time in my life, that was the only thing I cared about. And it was incredibly funny because in this, like, I was part of this case with another friend of mine who was a man, and he was not accosted in the same way that I was. So obviously they picked and chose who would maybe be an easier target to kind of let out on. And I guess I got the brunt of that, which is, I thought, incredibly unfair. And like, this individual in the same breath who told me I never cared about the community said that, oh, I'm out of Splatoon because I've checked off all of the tick marks for my resume for Splatoon. And I thought that was so short-sighted. Like, you can't in one breath tell me that I don't care about the community and on the other hand tell me that Splatoon to you is just a tick mark on your resume, right? Like, I thought that was incredibly rude. And so I like I mentioned, these events have taken place over the course of many years. This specific event must have taken place in like 2021 or something like that. So, 5 years is a lot to grow. And I want to hope that these members of the community have maybe found a little bit more of a footing or a little bit less of an ego to be able to kind of move forward past this and not do this to anybody else. But I will say that neither of these individuals have apologized to me. Actually, sorry. I would say this individual has not apologized to me for having accosted me and saying all these kind of horrible things to me. But who knows? Maybe they might not even remember having done that to me. But like I mentioned, these are the kinds of things that kind of made me step back from the community in a significant way, honestly. And it is a little sad because, like I mentioned, I do work with Nintendo, right? I do the commentary, and I absolutely love Splatoon, but for a long time, I just couldn't love Splatoon. I just did not have the ability to do that. So I had to really take a step back and, that saying, time heals all wounds, at least to some degree. So I do love Splatoon. I do love the community. I feel very grateful for the opportunities that Splatoon has allowed me, and for the people that I've met, for the personalities that I've seen, for the experiences that I've had. But every time I think about let me involve myself more, I have zero love. I don't have any feeling in my heart to want to do that. Because honestly, the things that happened to me when I was doing Splatoon stuff, as a notable member of the community, pretty traumatic. So I think my body just knows it's not a good thing to kind of risk putting myself back in that position.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can really resonate with having negative experiences with individuals in the community, and I kind of you need to take a step back and you need to take a bit and you need to say I'm engaging with this so much and I'm spending so much time with these situations and these people who take so much from me and who drain so much of my emotional capacity that I've begun to associate even interacting with the community at all with all this negativity, and it becomes exhausting. It becomes hard to engage with something that you like previously, like as you said, it was the only thing I cared about. Like it was so incredibly important to you, and it still is, but it loses its luster. It stops being as appealing to pick up the controller, to hop on Blue Sky, to make content, to all of it, you know?
Yeah. And I think for me particularly, it was especially bad for me because I had that visibility from being probably one of the most like prolific streamers for Splatoon. And like when you have visibility, you just have a target on your back. And especially if you're out there in a visible light, but also like a nice person, you know?
Yeah.
Like people feel entitled to that for some reason. And I've never been one to like, I know a lot of nice people when they get like pushback or when they take, I guess, when people are mean to them, they kind of like accept it. I'm like not that person. So like people are honestly really surprised when they try to take advantage of my niceness and I immediately become unnice. And they're like, wait, hold on, like I can't just say whatever I want to you. That's kind of crazy. So like my encouragement to like women and femme and non-binary folks, marginalized folks, is don't let people step on you because you have that power. Like you have that power to cut people off, and you have that power to not be everybody's friend, and that is power to you. I think that is a lesson that I've had to learn over the last few years. Like you can be nice to everyone if you want, but you don't have to be everybody's friend, and that is totally okay.
Absolutely. I think in our culture, in our society, there's the expectation that women kind of just have to take it as it is, and they're not allowed to like be assertive and say, hey, that's not okay, actually. And you know, as a society, our values and our beliefs are ever changing, and progress is being made on this. It's not as bad as it was, blah 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 blah. But that doesn't mean it's fine. That doesn't mean where we're at is okay, and it doesn't mean it's necessarily conscious like villainy from people. It can be in the little ways that you perpetrate like systems of oppression without knowing it. In the unconscious biases that you have in how you interact with people.
Yeah, no, I actually in that vein, the third post that I posted about where I was playing competitively for Element R, and for those of you who weren't participating in competitive Splatoon, in Splatoon 2, Element R was maybe Div 2. Like we were like a good team. We made the NA like playoffs once for like whatever. So like we were like a solid team. And what was incredibly special about Element R is that for the most part, we we're all like really good friends. And our team ended up being like 10 people big, but so we never agreed on who would play, but we like really valued each other's company, and we would just like hang out and like just, you know, enjoy being around each other. And like that individual who was like telling people that I was not a good member of the team, that I should be kicked off, I think it has a lot to do with what you were mentioning, Roa, where that unconscious bias, right? I think this individual personally was not very happy with themselves as a person, and maybe had kind of expressed this in the least healthy way possible by taking it out on other people. Since then, they have changed a lot. They seem much more comfortable in their skin, which is why I believe that they're not going to do something like that to other marginalized people. So I, you know, like but I'm pretty sure that they didn't forget about this either, and I know that they've learned from it. So I want to encourage people that, you know, sometimes it's not an issue of others around you. Sometimes it really does take a little bit of introspection to be like, hey, let me slow down and think about why I'm saying these things about this person, or why I'm doing this thing, or why I'm agreeing to something that I, in my heart, know is not right. Right? So it's okay to slow down your life and really reflect, because it's very easy to get caught up with things because things are happening so fast, and especially with the age of the internet, things are happening at an exponentiated rate, right? So that makes, as my therapist puts it, that puts you in a dangerous place. So it is important to slow down and really reflect on the things that you're doing very carefully, and the things that people are telling you, without having that like immediate like fiery knee-jerk reaction, which again, like I mentioned, I'm guilty of too. But I have the advantage of being an adult, so I have a little bit less of that fiery knee-jerk reaction. But it's never too late to kind of think about that and to kind of reflect, because yeah, slowing down your life is good, and I think more people should do that. So if like you ever feel like that, sign off of the internet, take like 2 hours, read a book, and then come back to it. Come back to the situation that made you feel like that, and then sorry, the motorcycle, and then and then decide, hey, okay, let me do like an emotional analysis. Let me do like a little figure out why exactly I felt that way, and trust me, you're gonna live a much more emotionally healthy life.
Being aware of your own thought processes is like a life cheat code. I don't know what other way to put it.
Yeah, totally.
You mentioned in there like, oh, I'm an adult, so I have less of that knee-jerk reaction. I see a lot of adults with knee-jerk reactions.
Okay, you're right. You're right. That is true. However, it is expected that adults have less knee-jerk reaction. So you know what? I'll just go with expectations versus reality kind of deal. Adults can still learn from it, and you know, sometimes maturity. When you mature as a human being, sometimes that process is also not linear. So
yeah, absolutely. Improvement is never linear.
Yeah, totally. And I find that like, I think one of the hardest things about improving and growing and learning from your mistakes and admitting that you were wrong is that you really have to internalize when people tell you something, right? Like I could be like, Roa, someone kicked me in the shins today and it hurt real bad. And then you're going to be like, oh, that sucks. I'm sorry. But it's not really until someone also kicks you in the shins real bad. And you're like, oh man, that really sucked. And then you can kind of like relate, right? And sometimes you just can't relate because like for a man who is a cis man who will never not be a cis man, you may not understand what it's like being a woman or being them or being non-binary, right? So again, you just have to like internalize it. And I guess my advice would be is if you are that person who you're like, oh, I'm never going to be a woman, I'm never going to know what that feels like, think about a situation in maybe which you felt kind of wronged, right? We can all relate in some ways. If it's not in the same way, we can relate in similar ways, right? Like if somebody said something to you because of X, Y, and Z, like say you're a person of color, we can relate, you know, you can relate to that. Or if somebody said something kind of out of pocket to you, we can all relate to that. That has happened to probably all of us. So I think empathy just goes so far in things like this. And maybe it's not the same situation, but I'm sure we can all relate to kind of feeling bad because someone said something or someone felt entitled to us or someone did something wrong to us, right?
Absolutely. I think there's a lot of like, there's a lot of men and there's a lot of men I see out there who they have this like toxic defensiveness of like not being able to admit to their own mistakes and to admit to being wrong. And they have all these, because like as humans, we think of what we're gonna do and then we justify it later. Like it's so like our knee-jerk reaction to everything is to like have a response and then act on the response that you have naturally, and then in your mind retroactively make up a reason you did it.
Yeah.
And
no, that sounds valid.
and they often like, one that I see a lot, and we kind of touched on a little bit throughout the conversation, was this like, they never say that, like, they don't come out and say, and it's not like capital S sexism where it's like, oh, it's because you're a woman, blah 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 blah, but it always just so happens to be a woman, and it always just so happen, you know, it's like,
Yeah.
and they will never admit that they're doing this because in the back of their brain, subconsciously, society has conditioned them that behaving like this towards women is okay.
Yeah. I think that's like a really good point, that like no one is going out there being like women suck, you know, like that's just like not what we see these days. It's always a little bit more insidious. It's just like kind of hidden there. And I want to kind of like just reiterate again that it is not your fault that society conditions you in a certain way, but it is your responsibility to uncondition yourself.
Absolutely.
Right? Like I'm speaking, we as women, for the most part, aren't like, we hate you because society taught you that women suck, right? Society taught us that women suck too. That's why we have our, like, you know, what is it? When you, what's the word called? When you have biases against women as a woman. Oh my God, what is it called? I'm looking this up. Oh my God, I cannot remember what this is called. I guess we can just say like it's an unconscious bias, right?
Sure.
Like I grew up thinking like, oh, I want to be friends with men because women are like conniving or sneaky, or they're not like a good person. But like, you know, like we're conditioned like that too, and we have to also uncondition ourselves. So it's not just you guys, it's not you men who like have experienced this. We also experience it also as women, as femme people, as non-binary people, right? But it is our responsibility. And especially if we want to be in a community that supports each other, no matter what our race, what our gender, you know, identity, no matter who we are, right? We want to be better. And I think that takes deliberate effort.
Absolutely. It takes understanding that anyone is capable of perpetrating oppression and being a cog in the wheel that maintains the status quo, that some types of people are accepted as being okay to do one thing and not the other, and all of these things that we've made up as a society over the thousands of years that humans have existed. And it can be so like, it can be so easy to lose sight of that, or to not even gain sight of it to begin with, because it's difficult to be so aware of your own thought process that you know that you can do things you don't like.
Yeah. You know, I think we should be very lucky that Splatoon is so diverse in the way that it is, because we get to hear a lot of experiences of people that maybe you don't get to meet otherwise. Like a lot of people who play Splatoon, maybe in the real world live in little bubbles, and they don't get to meet people who are trans, and they don't get to meet people who are femme, or maybe they don't even get to meet women. I don't know, right? So like we should feel very grateful that people care enough in this community to kind of bring up these issues so that we can be better, so that you can be better, so that you can feel like, you know, I'm not making things worse for other people. In fact, I am bettering people's lives by what I'm doing. And I think that is an amazing opportunity. For context, I was a public school teacher for a long time, and I taught it. And I grew up in an upper middle class white neighborhood. So I didn't really have very much hardship. I didn't have very much I just kind of like lived my life, and it was normal for people to graduate high school. It's normal for people to go to college. It's normal for people to get jobs after that. That was like the pipeline, right? But when I started working in really like poverty level urban public schools, it was almost a shell shock to find out that people found that graduating high school was an achievement for them. That was something that was not expected from the community. So like I had to what's the word? It's not rearrange. I had to reconsider what exactly experiences of others meant to me. And while that whole experience turned out to be not as positive as I wanted overall because of a lot of other factors, I've always felt grateful for that, that I can understand more where other people are coming from. And that's just the kind of opportunity that Splatoon has for the community, right? Like you may never, you in some state in the middle of the country may never meet a trans person in your life. That's just like the reality, right? You might have to drive 30 minutes to go to school. But online, you start talking to people who are, you start talking to people who are like marginalized, and they tell you about things that go on with them, and you learn more about the world. And Splatoon offers that to you. So I hope that, I guess my encouragement to you who are listening to this podcast is take advantage of that. Listen to what other people's experiences are, broaden your own experiences, broaden your own horizons, and learn from it. Because it's not a bad thing, really. It really is such a good thing to have that diversity here.
Diversity is such a large strength in any community. I think especially within online spaces, you're so lucky in that you can meet so many different kinds of people from so many different places, from so many different backgrounds, who hold so many different beliefs. And having that all like in your pocket at your fingertips at a moment's notice is one of the like great parts of the internet that I think is it's indestructible, because there's always going to be diverse people who want to interact with each other. And having that in a community like Splatoon is really valuable. Mellana, what would you say to someone who maybe they're looking back at some of their actions in the past and they feel regret, or they feel like I shouldn't have said that, or they're second guessing the things that they've done, the people they associated with, maybe the people that they're still with, and they feel like they want to make changes for the better, but they're maybe afraid to do so?
I'd reiterate that not everybody has to be your friend, and that's okay. What I've had to do throughout my 20s is reevaluate, and I really have had to think about, do the people in my life add to my life? And it is obviously a very like personal question. You think about it for yourself. Everyone has different goals for themselves, right? And it's not necessarily I hate this guy because this guy has said things that I don't agree with. It's our paths are going different directions, and it's okay to let go of things like that, because you will find other people who are going to be on the same path as you, and those are the people that you want to keep around. Friend groups don't have to be the same all the time, and that is okay. Now, if you're feeling a little bit more, got a little bit more gumption, you can always try to bring that up with people who you are with, who say things that you don't agree with regarding women, regarding people of color, regarding whatever, right? You can bring it up. You, hypothetically as a man or not, can bring it up to people that you don't agree with, because there's no I'm kind of old, right? Like some people in the community are like half my age, legitimately. So I've learned over the years that fair weather friends are not the friends you want to keep around. And for those of you who've never heard that saying, it's friends who kind of stick around when the times are good, and then they kind of like dip when the times are kind of bad, right? Um, and when I say bad times, I mean times maybe where you do something wrong and somebody else has to point that out, or if somebody else does something wrong and you have to point that out, and maybe it causes some sort of friction there, but in the end, that makes you a better person, that makes them a better person. And if you're around somebody who really can't handle that, that's not going to be on you, but it is your responsibility to take care of yourself and to do what you think is best for you, whether that is to separate from them or to continue to try to like improve their behavior. So I would encourage you to do what is best for you, but also if you can be an ally, that is always the exceptional route, but not the easy route for sure.
What you said about fair weather friends there is really, it's making me come back to this thought that I've been having a lot, that our society is so adverse to conflict, especially among close friends, that it's seen as like, I can never do wrong, because if I do wrong, I'm like immediately like an outcast, and I'll be thrown into the river. But I think it's really important that we kind of say, hey, it's okay if you fuck up. That's normal. What it's a stronger show of character if you fuck up and make amends than if you don't fuck up at all.
Right. No one is perfect. And that is like a straight fact, right? Like no one can be perfect. But so we're all going to mess up in some way, but it is important that you take responsibility when you mess up and you don't do it again. Because if you do it again, then did your apologies mean anything? Probably not, right? But again, change is not linear. Progress is not linear. So sometimes bad habits take a while to break, and it is okay as long as you know yourself that you are on a track to improve your behavior, right? And ideally, you have people around you who will point out when you like kind of mess up and kind of redirect you back on the good path, right? So, yeah, life is complicated, but we can always make it less complicated by trying to be better people.
And the first step to that is always to just self-evaluate and to look at your actions. You don't necessarily have to tomorrow wake up and be the person that you think you should be, or that you're expected to be, but you need to be able to say, oh, I don't like that I do that, or oh, maybe I shouldn't have said that. Maybe how I interact with people isn't what it should be. Maybe I need to improve, and that's always the first step.
Yeah, and if possible, if you've wronged someone and you know you've wronged someone, it is not a bad thing to make amends. It is not a required thing for the person you wronged to accept your apology, but it is a show of character to say that you messed up and that you have reflected. I recently got a message from a friend who, after many months of not talking because of a disagreement, but like kind of it was like a disagreement, but almost in the same vein of something of what we're talking about right now. But after many months of not talking, he messaged me, and his message was incredibly long, but it was full of reflection, and it was full of like genuine apology. And while I wouldn't consider us friends anymore, I very much respected the fact that he took that time to self-evaluate, to evaluate his emotions, to apologize to me as a result, and to like explain through all of that what exactly happened with him, because it was like incredibly genuine, and I really did appreciate that. So if that's any like consolation to people who have wronged someone, no matter how long it's been, chances are they remember better than you do. It is important to try to make amends where you can, because it shows that you have grown as a person and that you no longer want to do or do those things that have wronged them.
Absolutely. And there's this, like, especially in men and in masculinity, there's this sense that apologizing is folding, and it's giving up, and it's not manly, and it's weak to admit that you were wrong and to want to change, instead of being firm and standing your ground and but there's so much bravery and there's so much strength that comes from looking at yourself and saying, I should have been better.
Vulnerability is not weakness, I think. I think vulnerability is strength.
Absolutely. It's one of the most it's one of the biggest shows of strength that I think anyone can have.
Yeah, totally.
Mellana, this has been an absolutely amazing chat. I'm very grateful that you took the time to sit down and talk with me about your experiences and kind of hash through some of the things. If you could kind of end on, I don't want to put you on the spot and be like, okay, what does the community need to do to fix everything? Because it's always going to be a problem as long as there's humans. There's going to be implicit biases, and it's going to be interwoven into everything about us. But what do you think the community can do? Short term, actionable. What do you think people listening can do right now to make the community better in ways like this?
Okay, so a couple of things. If you are a woman, if you're a femme, non-binary, person of color, draw boundaries. Because when you draw boundaries, you push the people who are hurting you. You push the people who are wronging you, who take advantage of your time, your kindness. You push them out. And people like that, with the behavior like that, don't deserve to be in your circles. So stand your ground, push them out. They don't have to be your friend. You don't have to be nice to them. You can be as mean as you want. For the people who want to be better, keep your friends accountable. If they're saying things in a VC with nobody else around but you, say something. It will make a difference, because people who say things that don't vibe with you but respect you will listen to you because they respect you, right? Like, so it is your responsibility to at least say something, especially if you want to be not associated with this behavior, and especially if you want to kind of, be better yourself. If they don't listen to you, you are more than able to kind of distance yourself from them, because that is behavior that they also need to note themselves that they want to change. And unfortunately, you can't force them to change. So you can only handle you. And if you want to be better, you cannot be around people like that. If you are a person who says these things actively and you're like, haha, it's funny, it's not. And I would encourage you to utilize that diversity of Splatoon, to listen to the people who are telling you that this stuff is bad, this stuff is making people uncomfortable, this stuff is making people upset, that you really internalize other people's pain, because like I mentioned before, chances are you have had some sort of painful moment in your life, and I'm sure no one likes that. So the fact that you're causing this kind of pain or suffering or anger to somebody else, not great. So I would recommend that you take a second, no knee-jerk reactions, listen to the experiences of others, and really reflect. Is this something that I perpetuate? Is this something that behavior that I continue? Or is this something that, is this an area of improvement for me? And that is okay. We love when people improve. We love when people are vulnerable. We love when people are people and not trying to be like tough guys, you know? We appreciate when people are real with us, and we appreciate when people are trying to change for the better, because that is what's going to make this community better. So those are my advices to all the 3 groups of people that I think would make this community at least just a little bit more safe for women, femme, and non-binary folks.
Very well said. I think you covered basically all the bases there with that. Mellana, thanks so much for taking the time to sit down and chat with me. It was very cool to be able to hear your points of view and talk with you about this topic.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity. Like I mentioned, I might still be on the peripherals of the community, but if you ever feel like you need someone to talk to, you can always message me. Yeah.
Nice as ever, going back to the early parts of this conversation.
Yeah, but don't you dare say something mean to me, because I'm just
don't take advantage of that niceness. Thank you at home for taking the time to listen to this. If you want to get involved with the discussion, please feel free to respectfully engage in the comments or on Blue Sky with the ongoing discussion. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch, and especially engage in a long form way of understanding this topic. I think the more people that take the time to truly engage with it, the better. If you're looking for more interviews, more will be here. So stick around. It feels weird to be like, hey, comment, like, subscribe after a topic like
hit
this.
That bell button.
Hit the bell button. But if you want to find any of my interviews, they'll be linked on my channel. If you want to find Mellana anywhere, linked below. We'll probably also link the Blue Sky thread if you want to see kind of more about this discussion. But yeah, we'll leave it there. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and I've been Ro. It's nice to yap some more for you, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.